Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome back to Wall Street Silver. Joining us today is a very, very special guest, our good friend, Dr. Marc Faber, the editor and publisher of Gloom, Boom, and Doom Report. Welcome back, sir.
Well, thank you very much for having me on your esteemed program.
It's absolute pleasure having you back on. Well, the world is getting crazy, Dr. Faber. There's so much financial stress in the system, and it's such a critical time. The big question is, how can the Fed keep raising rates with all the debt that's mounted up in the system? How can Jerome Powell continue to raise rates without breaking something?
Well, that is the problem of having kept interest rates at an artificially low level. Now, as you know, the rate of inflation, depending on which statistics you rely upon, but it has to be still around 6% to 12%, depending on the household, because different prices move at different times. So if you're someone who loves olive oil, the olive price is at the 20 years high. You understand? Whereas I just looked at the chart of lumber, it's completely imploded, but not necessarily for the retail client, because he goes and buys some lumber in a store like Home Depot and so forth. The price hasn't gone down that much, because it's offset by service inflation, transportation costs, and so forth and so on. So the Fed is now in a very difficult situation, because you look at the 10 years Treasury bond yield, it's say 3.5% plus minus, and inflation is 6%. And there's a stress in the financial system, certainly with regional banks. So what should the Fed do? In theory, the Fed should continue to increase interest rates until they are significantly above the rate of inflation. Mm-hmm. But if they do that, the system collapses. So it's not a very desirable option. I don't know what Powell will do. My sense is he will move slowly, but if problems occur, then they'll flood the system again with liquidity.
So you think that's what he'll do? He'll move slowly?
Yes, I believe, we have a lot of volatility in individual stocks and individual commodities, but the long cycles, they take time, and they move in slow motion. In other words, we have rising interest rates from the Second World War until 1981, then falling interest rates. Of course, they were artificially then kept low until August 2020. And now I think we are in an inflationary cycle, because we start the cycle with a record amount of deficits and debts. Mm-hmm. And the way I see it, the political parties are not eager to reduce the deficits. The Republicans spend on weapons and corruption. The Democrats spend on transfer payments to themselves and corruption. So both are about equal. It's a uniparty, and both will not do anything about the deficits, because to do something about the deficits would be to go to people and tell them, you have to pay more tax, or you get less money from us, the government, in terms of social security, in terms of subsidies, and so forth. And society today is a society of woke people. You understand?
Yeah.
They don't want to bear or take sacrifices on themselves. They all think that they are victims of something and that they deserve reparation payment. I also deserve reparation payment, because I was born in Switzerland, and we had to fight the evil Austrians to get our freedom.
Right.
So the Austrians should pay us reparations.
Yeah, no, it's I absolutely agree.
And
So
Napoleon, he stole our gold. The French should pay us reparations.
yeah, the French need to pay up. Absolutely. And Dr. Faber, there's a program coming out at the Federal Reserve this July. It's called Fed Now. They aren't promoting it as a central bank digital currency, but it really looks like one. Why are so many countries introducing the language for a central backed digital currency to be rolled out?
It's a business for them. It's very easy way to print money.
Mm.
A cryptocurrency controlled by the government is a present from heaven to essentially control transactions, your transaction, my transactions, and so forth. I don't think it will take off because we will go back to barter systems, or in a village, we can introduce our own money.
Mm-hmm.
It will be counterfeited, but we can introduce our own money. The central government will then step in and probably prohibit that. But, I don't think people want to or will tolerate to be monitored about everything they do. It's
Right.
if I go out at night, I pay cash, so nobody knows anything.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there's some idiots that go out at night into a whorehouse and pay with the credit card, which is on the name of the wife.
Oh, I even read in a recent article, Dr. Faber, that the Bank of International Settlements they even introduced their own CBDC. It's called Icebreaker, the program, and a lot of these countries are transitioning to centralized digital money. So my question is, like you just said earlier, how dangerous is it for the Fed to control absolutely everything? Like, how dangerous is that?
Well, it depends philosophically what you believe. I believe strongly that we are moving into a totalitarian state. Now, I don't know whether the future dictator or ruler or king or emperor or whatnot, or president of the World Economic Forum, whether he's a socialist, communist, or a fascist, but it won't matter very much. In character, he will be an authoritarian, uneducated clown that belongs to the bureaucracy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in former times, we had autocratic regimes under kings and the feudals and rulers. And now we have the same under the bureaucrats, except the bureaucrats is the worst kind of mob. They are uneducated. They're not legitimately there where they are in their position of power. And they will always abstain from any responsibility. So say the head of state or the head of the WHO, they go to people and say, you must vaccine. If you don't vaccine, you lose your job and so forth.
Right.
3 years later, it comes out that the vaccines have huge side effects. And then they say, well, we said that based on the medical evidence at that time.
Right.
None of these people has ever apologized. None.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. And you see, and you just have to follow the money. Hey, Dr. Faber, when you see pharmaceutical, when you see the pharmaceutical companies and how much they've made off of everything, it's pretty crazy. But getting a little bit,
Is a tax
is it?
in a
Yes.
way. They impose a tax on the system of people. I didn't pay that tax. I never went for a vaccine.
Yeah, same.
I will never do anything the government tells me because, let's face it, the government does not represent the people. They represent themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just look at President Biden and Kamala Harris. What do you think they care about people?
No, they don't care about people
They
at
couldn't
all.
care less.
Yeah. Where are you putting your money right now? Silver, gold, commodities? Where are you
Well,
putting
I've
your money?
always have the same allocation: real estate, stocks, bonds, cash, and of course, precious metals. And so the precious metals as a percent of total assets has done well and has increased in value. But it's not that when I see that gold goes up, that I would sell all my stocks and sell all my bonds and cash and put it all into gold. I may increase the position in precious metals, but I have already a lot. So I, I don't know. I feel it's better not to overdo things, because
Right.
we don't know what the problem is. You and I can analyze the gold market or the silver market or platinum, but you and I, we don't know what the government will do next.
Yeah, you never know what they can do. There can be
They
confiscations
can
like the
do a lot,
past.
and they can ask people to do it for them, like they can ask some banks to kind of manipulate the price, which they've done. I have friends who seem to know that the prices have been manipulated. Doesn't help in the long run. On the contrary, in the long run, manipulation breaks, and then prices move strongly. And we may be at this point at the present time where maybe precious metals have a good move. But I'm not going to increase the position in gold and silver because I already have enough.
Yeah, a lot of people are talking about gold and it reaching new all-time highs the past couple of weeks. And a lot of people who came on to the Wall Street Silver channel, they say even by the end of 2023, we could see $2,800 gold. Do you think that's realistic?
Look, it could be 2,800 or it could be 4,000 or 6,000. I believe that this year, as they have always done, the Federal Reserve will cave in.
Right.
Because if you analyze very carefully, once you embark on printing money, as they did in December 2008, that was the announcement by Mr. Ben Bernanke, another of these bureaucratic geniuses that never has worked in a business in his life, has no business experience, has never conversed with ordinary people on the street. He's an academic moron. You understand? He's went to fine universities and read some books and so forth. Most of them he didn't read. He didn't read the classical economists. And if he read them, he didn't understand them. Or else he is a communist. You understand? The communists, they want to control the system. They want the planned economy. And the central bank is a wonderful instrument how to control the economy and the allocation of capital.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dr. Faber, I'm seeing now a lot of people are bringing up central banks are buying more gold now that they have in the past 55 years. Are they preparing for something big, possibly full-on de-dollarization?
Well, this is a good point. The last time they bought the kind of quantity of gold they're buying now is in the late 50s and 60s, which preceded the 1971 closure of the gold window in America in August 71.
Right.
And following that, the gold price went ballistic. So I would take this as an important signal, but I would also take this as an important signal that finally, I mean, it's difficult to believe that governments would smarten up, but governments in India and in Russia and in China and in Brazil and so forth, they have second thoughts about holding all their money, their monetary reserves in dollars, because they saw how the US essentially froze the assets of the poor Afghani people, who are some of them are starving. But the US, they go and give conferences about human rights. At the same time, they let the Afghani people starve. That
Wow.
is the hypocrisies of America. Talk big and do the worst kind of things onto the world.
Look what they did to Middle East and what happened with
Yes,
with
absolutely.
Libya.
It's all a horror show, a horror show.
Yeah, no, it is. It absolutely is.
But they'll be punished, sooner or later, luckily.
Yeah, absolutely. There's countries in the Middle East that wanted to transition away from the US petrodollar for many years, like Libya, Iraq,
Yes.
Syria. What happens when another country like Russia or China want to say, you know what, that's it, we're moving away from the US dollar, and US just can't invade them like they did the Middle East? What happens
Well,
then?
they're trying in Ukraine.
Yeah, that's right.
But cowards as they are, they let the Ukraine starve and fight and die, and themselves they sit at the State Department in comfortable chairs. But anyway, reverting to your question, I also think there's one trend that I think is important to understand. It seems that some forces in the US, some call it the deep state, and some people call it whoever it is, but they are out to destroy the cities. And obviously, when you want to destroy a city like Chicago, then wealthy people move out, and then the people who remain, they will have to contend with either higher taxation or with more unpleasant living conditions, like stores will close down and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
And when stores close down, the problem is that the thieves have less opportunity. So the theft will then be concentrated on your neighborhood store
Oh,
and
that's
not just
crazy.
one in the suburb.
That's
So
crazy.
that is a side effect. But it means that essentially properties in the countryside may be desirable. I mean, when you think about it, assuming you were to live in Chicago and you have a family, and all the time there are some people that pester you and threaten you. Then one day you say to yourself, why do I still live here? I go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to the countryside in Montana or in Utah or wherever. And so I think that real estate in cities will not be very desirable, and that commercial properties will be bad. That's why I think this regional banking problem is actually a bigger problem than is perceived by the market. So the outlook for equities is not particularly good. The outlook for properties is not particularly good.
Mm-hmm.
And the outlook for, say, gun manufacturers is probably quite good, because at some point in your life, I don't have a gun. I'm not allowed to have a gun because I live in Thailand. But
Mm-hmm.
I think at some point, people say to themselves, well, if some people walk into my home, I want to at least be able to defend myself.
Yeah, especially in Chicago, if there's corporations leaving and you said it's more concentrated on neighborhoods, the crime, people will want to defend themselves. And that's what I see happening across the US, just chaos if the US dollar implodes.
Yes, yes. But it's funny, the corporations that are leaving Chicago, they are also the ones that give money to the BLM. When you think
Wow.
about it,
Wow.
they're mad. They're mad.
It's just crazy.
They are deranged CEOs, and they actually perpetuate the problem. I think about the last thing I would ever do in my life is give a penny to the BLM.
Yeah,
It's
no.
an organization like the socialists. They don't want to create wealth. They want to destroy what people have done before in terms of building infrastructure and creating prosperity. That they want to destroy.
Wow. Yeah,
It's
no,
not that I'm proud of the achievements of our civilization, but the world has never been as wealthy as under Western capitalism.
yeah, I agree. Well, Dr. Faber, it's an absolute pleasure having you come to Wall Street Silver. It's always great
I'm
having
not
you
sure if
on.
it's a pleasure.
Yeah, it is. It's incredible having you on. The discussion was really awesome. So we thank you, everyone, from me and Wall Street
Well,
Silver. You
let's
soon.
hope that silver goes up. I'm
Yes.
I'm more optimistic about platinum.
Yeah, a lot of people, before you go, let's get your quick thoughts on platinum. Why are you optimistic on platinum?
Well, statistically, it's extremely inexpensive. When you think about it, in the bull market of the 1970s, platinum went and sold at twice the price of gold. And now it is half the price of gold. So I think there is a lot of catch up to do. And number two, the supply of platinum in the world is tiny compared to the supply of gold.
Right.
So in a squeeze situation, and the large supplier is South Africa, I don't know what will happen there.
Yeah, no,
They themselves don't know. Although I have to say the South African gold mines have acted recently quite well.
interesting. Well, it's a huge pleasure having you on, Dr. Faber, and hopefully we can have you on as the market develops here soon.
Okay,
Talk
great.
talk to you soon.
Have a nice day. Bye
You
bye.
you too.